very short. 40,000 years ago, the tallest hunter in camp died from heat exhaustion. He was chasing prey across open grassland. The shortest one was still running. Under 4'11" to 5'2". That's 1.5 to 1.57 meters. Your frame carries more skin surface relative to your body size than almost any other height bracket. That ratio works like a radiator. It dumps heat fast in brutal conditions. There's a second piece of physics working in your favor here. Smaller bodies generally run a lower basal metabolic rate per pound of tissue, a relationship biologists have measured across species for decades. Less mass to maintain means less fuel needed just to keep the engine running. In a famine, that difference is the gap between starving and surviving. Cold climates flip the math. You lose warmth faster than larger bodies. You need more layers just to stay level with everyone else in the room. A 2013 study by researchers at VU University Amsterdam manipulated height in leadership simulations. It was published in the journal Group Processes and Intergroup Relations. Taller figures were rated as more dominant and more fit to lead. The effect was noticeably stronger for men than for women, though shorter women report a version of the same bias in hiring panels. You've probably felt that one without ever seeing the data. The room listens to the taller guy first. You have to say something twice as sharp just to get the same nod. You inherited the survival engine that outran heat for generations. You also inherited a world set up around someone else's measurements. That makes you adjust constantly just to function inside spaces never sized for you. A few inches up the scale, the cost changes shape completely, and it starts showing up in your paycheck. Efficiency. Stand next to someone 40 centimeters taller. Watch how far their arm reaches without effort. Yours stops short. That gap is permanent. If you sit around 5'3" to 5'6", that's 1.6 to 1.68 meters, your skeleton solved one problem and handed you another. Shorter limbs mean shorter levers. Less leverage means less force on anything that depends on reach, throwing, pulling, lifting something off a high shelf. The income data is specific here. Economists Timothy Judge and Daniel Cable looked at 4 large longitudinal studies. They covered over 8,500 people. They landed on a number. Each extra inch of height adds roughly $789 to annual salary. That holds even after controlling for gender, weight, and age. It's not a one-time gap either. It compounds every year you stay in the workforce. Stretch that across a 30-year career. The gap turns into well over $100,000 never earned for a number decided before you could walk. The same researchers also found height linked to higher ratings of leadership ability. Not skill, not intelligence, inches. That's the part that actually stings if you sit with it. You can outwork someone. You can outthink them. You can close the deal they couldn't close and still watch them get the promotion. Something in the hiring manager's gut trusted the taller frame more. Your ancestors didn't need a corner office. They needed to survive heat and hunger, and your frame handled that without complaint. Nobody warned you the bill for that trade would show up centuries later in a performance review. Longevity. Here's an uncomfortable question. What is your body actually the best at? If you land in that 5'7" to 5'8" zone, around 1.7 meters, the honest answer is nothing specific. Pool enough mortality data and a pattern shows up. Men slightly below the population average tend to have the lowest death rates. Risk climbs again at the tallest end. That sounds like winning until you notice what it cost you to get there. The science isn't fully settled here. A long-running study on Japanese-American men in Hawaii, tracked for over 40 years, found taller men faced a steadily higher risk of death overall, with the same trend in cancer mortality. Both point at the same suspect, IGF-1, a growth pathway that drives height and cell division, and tends to run lower in people who live the longest. No extra reach for power sports. No radiator-level surface area for brutal heat. No insulation for Arctic cold. Your biology picked the safest bet across thousands of generations. Safest means average on every single measurement that matters in competition. Picture two people from the same village 40,000 years ago. One climbs the cliff face for eggs, the other hauls water for miles. You're neither. You watch the climber fall sometimes, and the carrier collapse during a famine. You just keep walking, average in every measurement, dying of nothing in particular for longer than either of them. Sport rosters tell the same story today. Elite NBA centers often run around 6'10". Elite East African marathon champions often sit closer to 5'6". You sit in the exact middle, watching both extremes win contests made for them. Here's what nobody tells you about being the safe bet. It's lonely. Nobody writes songs about average. You'll outlive the guy with the highlight reel. You'll do it without anyone ever calling you exceptional. Some quiet part of you keeps waiting for a title that was never going to come. Average. When was the last time anyone called you exceptional at a physical task? Around 5'9" to 5'11". That's 1.75 to 1.8 meters. You sit close to the average American man. National Health Survey data puts that at roughly 5'9", with American women averaging close to 5'4". Your body bends towards speed one day, strength the next, coordination after that. That's useful right up until you stand next to someone who chose to specialize. Picture a school sports day. Every event lined up back to back. The high jump goes to the lanky kid. The shot put goes to the heaviest kid in the year. The sprint goes to someone shaped like a coiled spring. You place respectably in everything and win nothing. By the third event, people already know what you'll do. Fine, not first. Line up a gymnast shaped around raw power to weight. Add a swimmer shaped around wingspan through water. Put yourself in the middle, capable of either, but master of neither. Elite gymnasts often sit around 5'3", and elite female gymnasts trend even shorter for the same leverage reasons. Elite swimmers in recent Olympic finals frequently sit above 6'2". You watch both collect medals earned by bodies that bet everything on one trait. You know this feeling from more than sport. Decent at your job, decent in the gym, decent enough socially that nobody worries about you or fights for you. Ancient environments rewarded that kind of range because conditions kept shifting without warning. A body that handled everything outlived bodies that handled only one thing. The modern world stopped asking for range. It runs on cutoffs, a height requirement for a job, a reach minimum for a sport, a number filtered out of a dating app before anyone reads your name. Chaos is exactly what you were good at. The world started asking for a specialist instead and never asked if that felt fair. Add a few more inches past your range and the body starts paying for its own strength. Power. Your heart works harder every single day, and nobody asked if you agreed to that deal. Above 6 feet, up to 6'3", that's 1.83 to 1.9 meters. Longer limbs create more force output. That's a real advantage in lifting, throwing, reach. People notice that part immediately. Strangers read it as confidence before you've said a word. What they don't see is the maintenance bill running quietly underneath. Tens of thousands of participants, multiple cohorts, one consistent finding. Every additional 10 centimeters of height carries roughly 27 to 34% higher odds of venous thromboembolism. That's a dangerous blood clot condition. Blood travels further against gravity in your legs than in a shorter frame. Researchers point to that extra distance as the leading explanation. The calorie math backs it up too. A man at 6'3" typically carries 15 to 20% more total body mass than a man at 5'7". That adds up to roughly 300 to 400 extra calories needed daily before a single workout. A hunter from Ice Age Europe needed every inch of that height. He needed every extra calorie it demanded. He used it to drag a downed elk through snow that would bury a smaller frame to the waist. Sit in traffic today with that same frame. The elk is gone. The mammoth is gone. The only thing left to drag is yourself through another day. The strength people envy in you never gets used for anything that matters. This is strength without a job to do. And that's a different problem than the one coming next. The cost here is wasted output. The cost waiting past 6'4" isn't wasted output. It's a body running out of room to put that output anywhere at all. Very large. Climb into the back seat of a packed car. Watch your knees fold against the seat in front before the door even shuts. Now imagine doing that on every flight, in every theater seat for the rest of your life. Past 6'4" up to 6'6". That's 1.93 to 1.98 meters. Size starts running into the limits of a world sized for someone smaller. A Norwegian cohort study tracked over 315,000 people. Men and women in the tallest quarter faced a clearly increased risk of needing a knee replacement later in life. The likely culprit is longer leg bones, acting like longer levers. They put more strain on the joint with every single step you've ever taken. None of that strain shows up overnight. It accumulates quietly, decade after decade, until a knee finally gives out on a body that never asked for the extra length in the first place. Where the last bracket burned through extra fuel it couldn't use, this one runs out of physical room. Full stop. People assume your size means you take up space easily, that the world bends for you. Most days it's the opposite. You're the one ducking, folding, apologizing for your own knees in a stranger's armrest space. Northern European populations carried this frame for good reason once, hunting the largest animals, intimidating rivals, surviving brutal cold with bulk to spare. But airplane seats, standard door frames, and office chairs were never made with that history in mind. The small daily negotiations never stop, even when nobody else notices them happening. A few inches higher still, and those small negotiations turn into something your body can't negotiate with. Limit. Walk into a furniture store, ask for a bed long enough to fit you without your feet hanging off the end. You'll find one option tucked in a back corner, marked extra length at double the price of everything around it. At some point, bigger stops being an advantage and starts being a liability. Somewhere past 6'7", around 2 meters, you crossed that line without ever choosing to. A Karolinska Institutet study tracked 5.5 million Swedish men and women. Cancer risk climbed with height, about 11% higher per 10 centimeters in men, 18% in women. The likely mechanism is a growth hormone called IGF-1, the same one tied to the longevity research from earlier, which drives both height and cell division. More cells dividing across a lifetime means more chances for something to copy incorrectly. It's the same statistical risk that shows up in any system that scales. More parts, more chances for one of them to fail. Your heart pays its own version of that bill too. It works harder against gravity with every beat. Every single day you've been alive. Studies on extreme height consistently find that strain showing up as increased cardiovascular load. For most of human history, a body like yours didn't survive long enough to become common. Famine and pre-modern medicine filtered it out before it could be passed on at scale. You exist at this height because modern food supply and modern healthcare quietly removed those filters. The struggle itself never disappeared. People stare. They ask how tall you are within 5 minutes of meeting you. They treat your body like a conversation starter instead of something you just have to live in. Every store shelf, every door frame, every standard issue chair was made for someone else. You just happen to be the size nobody planned for. What it means? Step back, and the pattern is simple. Short frames bought heat survival or efficiency and lost reach or comfort. The mid-range bought longevity and balance and lost any single specialty. Tall frames bought power and reach and lost comfort, joints, or years. None of it was a mistake. Each bracket was a bet, placed by a body responding to conditions you never had to live through. Now it's being judged by rules it never agreed to follow. Remember that hunter from the opening, the one who outran the heat while a taller body collapsed beside him. Somewhere in the last 40,000 years, the rules around his body changed completely, and so did the rules around yours. The grassland is gone. The conditions that shaped you are gone. The body is still here, still running on instructions written for a world that no longer exists. Your height shaped you. It does not own you.